My name's Nathan, I'm 29, and until last Saturday, I genuinely believed I was a decent brother. The kind who shows up, keeps quiet, helps out when needed, and doesn't stir the pot. I never expected applause for it. I just thought that's what family did. My sister, Zoe, and I used to be close. Not share everything close, but the kind of close where she'd still text me dumb memes at 1 a.m. or call me when she needed help moving or dealing with mom after one of her classic guilt trips. So when she got engaged last year, I didn't think twice before offering to help pay for part of the wedding. She didn't ask, I volunteered. She was stressed, the venue was expensive, and her fiancé, Jordan, had just switched jobs. I remember saying, I'll cover the DJ and maybe part of the flowers or decorations, whatever you need. She cried on the phone. Not out of joy, I now suspect, but maybe just from relief. I wired her $5,000 that week. No questions asked. I didn't hear much after that. She got busier, which was understandable. Wedding planning, new job, new house. I chalked up the silence to stress. But over time, little things started to feel off. I wasn't included in the group chat she made for the bridal party and close family. When I asked about it, she said it was mostly for the girls and laughed it off. Then I noticed I wasn't listed in the family Facebook post about our amazing support team for the wedding. My name wasn't there, not even in the comments. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to seem needy. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Then came the rehearsal dinner. I arrived on time, gift bag in hand, wearing the exact business casual outfit she told me to wear. I was greeted by her future mother-in-law, who gave me a confused once-over and said, "You're Zoe's brother? Oh, I didn't think you were coming." Not exactly a warm welcome, but again, I smiled, brushed it off, and sat down at the far end of the table, near the exit. I wasn't on the program. When the toast started, Jordan thanked his parents, his groomsmen, his barber, and even his college roommate from sophomore year. Zoe chimed in to thank her bridesmaids and her chosen family who've truly been there. I wasn't mentioned. Not once. I stared at the condensation on my water glass and told myself it wasn't personal. I wasn't owed a spotlight. I was just there to support. The day of the wedding was when it all unraveled. I arrived early, per Zoe's instructions, dressed in the tailored charcoal suit I'd bought just for the occasion. The venue was beautiful. Big stone arches, a sprawling garden, white chairs lined in perfect rows. A woman with a clipboard and an earpiece greeted guests at the front gate. "Name?" she asked. I told her. She smiled politely, rummaged through a plastic tub, and handed me a bright neon orange wristband. It looked like something you'd get at a bowling alley or maybe a nightclub with a bad reputation. I blinked at it. "What's this for?" She responded with that bland, customer service tone. "Orange wristbands are for guests who are attending the ceremony only. Reception entry is limited to the internal party list." I stared at her. "I'm the bride's brother." She double-checked her clipboard. "Says here you're not on the reception list." Then she added, as if to soften the blow, "But you've got a great seat for the ceremony." I didn't know what to say. I thought maybe there'd been a mistake. Maybe I missed a form. A late RSVP. I stepped aside and called Zoe. No answer. I texted her. "Hey, I just got here. They gave me a wristband. Am I not allowed in the reception?" No reply. Still trying to keep my cool, I wandered toward the seating area. A few people noticed my wristband. Some gave me curious looks. Others just smiled awkwardly and avoided eye contact. I spotted a few guests with purple and silver wristbands. I assumed those were the important ones. Near the altar, I saw her hairstylist chatting with Zoe's old yoga instructor. Both were wearing silver. I knew this because they were taking selfies and giggling about it. I stood there feeling like I had accidentally shown up to a party I wasn't invited to, like I'd crashed my own family's celebration. Then I heard the snicker. One of Zoe's bridesmaids, a tall girl named Kelsey who had always rubbed me the wrong way, walked past with a champagne flute and said to someone behind her, just loud enough for me to hear, "The wristbands are for non-essential guests. You know, ceremony filler." She laughed. The guy next to her laughed too. I clenched my jaw and turned away. I wasn't about to make a scene at my sister's wedding. I told myself to breathe, to get through it, to leave quietly afterward. But then I saw the gift table. It was tucked near the garden doors, already overflowing with beautifully wrapped boxes and glossy envelopes. My envelope was easy to spot. I had splurged on a dark blue velvet one with a wax seal, because I thought it would be special. Inside was the $5,000 check I'd written weeks ago. I had even added a little handwritten note, wishing you both joy, strength, and something loud to dance to. I don't know what came over me. My legs moved before I fully decided. I walked straight to the table, slipped the envelope from the stack, and turned around. A few people watched, confused. One woman frowned like she wanted to say something, but didn't. I held the envelope up and said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, "Good thing this wasn't essential either." Someone gasped. Then I walked. I didn't rush. I didn't run. I just walked, straight down the aisle I wasn't worthy of attending, past the silver and purple bands, past the fake smiles and awkward stares. I heard someone yell my name, once, then again, louder. Nathan? Nathan. It was Zoe. She was coming down the garden steps, lifting the hem of her gown, heels clicking on stone. She caught up with me just before the gate. "What are you doing?" she demanded, breathless. I held up the envelope, taking back something non-essential. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "It's not what you think." I laughed, actually laughed, which felt strange coming out of me. "It's exactly what I think." And then she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Not hard, not yanking me back or anything, just enough to stop me from taking another step. Her hand trembled slightly. I could see the tension in her jaw, the way her carefully done makeup had already begun to crease from the corners of her eyes. I don't think she'd expected me to actually leave. Definitely not like this. And certainly not with the envelope in hand. "Nathan, please," she said, quieter now, glancing around at the guests who were starting to murmur. "You're making a scene." I looked at her, really looked at her. The lace on her dress shimmered in the late afternoon sun, delicate and flawless. She had always dreamed of a big wedding. I remembered how she used to cut up bridal magazines when we were kids, gluing them into a notebook titled Someday. I think a part of me had been proud, happy, even, to help make that someday happen. But in this moment, standing on the edge of her dream, I felt like I'd been written out of the story entirely. A footnote, maybe, or an asterisk with no explanation. "I'm not making a scene," I said, my voice even. "I'm leaving quietly. That's what non-essential guests do, right?" She winced, but didn't let go. "It was Jordan's idea. He said we couldn't afford a big reception for everyone. And that's why I gave you the money," I replied, holding up the envelope. "So you could afford it." She opened her mouth again, then paused. I watched something flicker behind her eyes. Guilt, or maybe frustration, I wasn't sure. She lowered her voice, almost a whisper. "He thought it would be better to just invite people who were part of our lives now. You know, inner circle." The words hit harder than she probably meant. "Right?" I said slowly. "So that doesn't include your brother." Her grip loosened, just slightly. "Nathan, come on. You're being dramatic." That word, dramatic. Like I was overreacting. Like it was silly of me to be hurt by being labeled ceremony filler. I pulled my wrist from her hand and tucked the envelope into my jacket. "I hope the hairstylist gives a good speech," I said. "Maybe she can thank the florist for raising you." Her mouth dropped open, but no words came out. "I gave you that money because I love you," I added, softer now. "Because I believed I was part of your story. But if all I ever was to you was a wallet with a last name, you're not just marrying the wrong man. You've become the wrong sister." She flinched like I'd slapped her. People were watching. I could feel their eyes on me. Some curious, some awkward, some downright gleeful, waiting for the drama to erupt. I took one last look at her, then turned toward the parking lot. The sun was starting to set, casting long gold shadows across the pavement. I walked slowly, deliberately, every step feeling heavier than the last. My phone buzzed in my pocket as I reached my car. A text from Mom. "What did you just do?" "She's crying. Come back and apologize before you ruin her day." I stared at it, let the screen dim, and slipped the phone back into my pocket. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in my car for a long while, watching the guests filter into the hall, the essentials. Laughter drifting faintly on the breeze. I pictured the toasts, the dancing, the first slice of cake. I imagined Zoe scanning the crowd and not seeing me, realizing, maybe too late, what she had thrown away. And for a moment, I did feel guilty. Not because I'd left, but because I'd spent so long believing I was lucky to be included, when all along, I was just convenient. I drove off into the twilight with the envelope on the passenger seat beside me, unopened. That night, the texts kept coming. From Mom. From Jordan. From two of the bridesmaids. some angry, some pleading, one of them even trying to spin it as a misunderstanding. That Zoe hadn't meant to hurt me, that I should have talked to her in private, that I embarrassed the family. But the most surprising one came at midnight, from Dad. Just 5 words. "You were right to leave." And that was when I knew. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was just finally done pretending I was welcome in a place I clearly wasn't wanted. But then, the next morning, something else happened, something I wasn't prepared for. I woke up to over 20 unread messages. At first, I didn't even want to check them. I figured it was more fallout, more finger-wagging from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly eager to defend Zoe's big day like they'd been there through the silence, through the exclusions, through the little humiliations that had led to the wristband. But one name stopped me: Uncle Ray. Now, Uncle Ray isn't really my uncle. He's my dad's cousin, technically, but everyone calls him Uncle because that's just the way it's always been. Growing up, he was the only adult who ever really noticed when things were off. He's also one of the few people I've always trusted: quiet, observant, always watching from the edges but never meddling unless it mattered. So when I saw his name in my notifications, I tapped it. His message was simple: "Can we talk? I think you should know something." That was it. No lecture. No guilt trip. Just a quiet invitation. I called him 20 minutes later, still groggy, the sun barely rising over the horizon. His voice came through steady, like it always had, the kind that made you listen even when you didn't want to. "I saw what happened yesterday," he said. "Saw you walking out with your head up. Just wanted to tell you, you didn't imagine it. You weren't being sensitive. You weren't wrong." My throat tightened a little. "Thanks. I think I needed to hear that." "I figured," he said. "That's why I'm calling. There's something about that money you gave Zoe. You didn't just pay for the DJ, did you?" I frowned. "No, I gave her 5,000. Told her to use it for whatever would help the most." "What?" He exhaled, slow and deliberate. "Nathan, that money didn't go to the wedding." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" I overheard Jordan talking to one of his groomsmen. "Apparently, a few months ago, Zoe used your money to help cover the down payment on their new car. She didn't tell you because she figured you wouldn't mind. Said, quote, Nathan never asks questions. He just gives." My chest went still. My mind scrambled for a different explanation, any explanation. "That can't be right." "I wish it wasn't," he said. But Jordan said it like it was a joke, like he was proud of her for being resourceful. I sat there in stunned silence. That check had been a stretch for me. I'd taken on extra freelance work just to cover it. Canceled my trip to Madrid. Postponed a dental surgery. But I'd told myself it was worth it. That helping Zoe start her married life off right was more important than whatever personal inconveniences I faced. "I'm sorry, kid," Uncle Ray added quietly. "I didn't know if I should tell you, but after yesterday, it didn't feel right staying quiet." I rubbed my temples, trying to process the weight of it all. The insult of the wristband. The humiliation. And now this. They'd taken my support and spent it behind my back, on a car. "Thanks for telling me," I said finally, voice low. "There's more," he said after a pause. "You might want to check Zoe's wedding registry page. Not the public one, the private one she sent out to her bridal party." I opened my laptop with shaky fingers and clicked through my emails, trying to find the link. I hadn't been included in the group email, but I remembered the domain. A few clicks later, I was in. It was like being slapped twice. There was a section labeled Friends and VIPs with an exclusive list of extra contributions and wishlist items. One of them, at the top, was a spa honeymoon upgrade fund. Next to it, my name, listed as a confirmed contributor, $5,000. I hadn't signed off on that. I hadn't even seen it. They had used my name, publicly, to show off a contribution I hadn't even agreed to. Probably to impress Jordan's family, or to make it look like they had more support than they actually did. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Zoe. She'd finally decided to text. "Can we talk? I feel like yesterday got out of hand." Out of hand. Out of hand was what you said when someone knocked over a drink or tripped over a chair. This wasn't out of hand. This was calculated, hidden, cruel. And I wasn't even sure if I had the words to answer her. Not yet. But I had questions. A lot of them. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this went deeper than a wedding. It was about every time I'd been the afterthought, the fallback, the unacknowledged help, the non-essential. Because if this was how they treated me in front of 100 people, I could only imagine what they were saying behind closed doors. And if Zoe thought I was done, that I'd walk away quietly and stay quiet, she was wrong. Because I had one more message to send. And I wasn't going to be polite this time. I didn't reply to Zoe's text right away. I needed time, not just to think, but to cool down. To sit with the sting of everything I'd just learned. Because it wasn't just about a wedding anymore. It wasn't about a wristband, or being left off a guest list, or a DJ, or a spa fund. It was about the way I had slowly been erased, reduced from family to function. A wallet in a suit. So I sat on it for a few days. I didn't block her. I didn't go scorched earth. I didn't post anything online. I just waited while the silence did the work for me. And in that silence, the cracks started to form. By Monday, I started getting calls from relatives. Some were confused. Some were angry. But a very select few, were curious. "Why didn't you stay for the reception?" one aunt asked, her voice low, like she was afraid of being overheard. "We noticed you weren't in any of the photos." That's when I realized something important. Zoe hadn't told anyone what happened. Not the full truth. She'd told people I left early, that I had an emergency. But the real reason, the wristband, the exclusion, the misuse of my money, she'd kept that quiet. Probably because even she knew it would make her look bad. That guilt she'd tried to downplay with a smirk and a shrug at the ceremony, it was growing. So I decided to reply. I took a deep breath, opened the message thread with Zoe, and typed, "Sure, let's talk. But I'd rather do it over email, so nothing gets misunderstood." She responded 10 minutes later with an "okay." That weird, passive-aggressive smiley she always used when she was trying to act like things were fine when they weren't. So I wrote her an email. Nothing angry, nothing dramatic, just the truth. I told her everything, how I felt getting that wristband, how humiliating it was to be treated like a prop at her wedding, how hearing her bridesmaid call me non-essential cut deeper than she realized. I told her I'd been proud to support her, and that she and Jordan had turned that support into something selfish, using my money for a car and then falsely attributing a spa donation to my name. I told her I felt used. And more than that, I felt disposable. I ended it with this. "I love you, Zoe, but I think you've mistaken quiet loyalty for indifference." I'm not indifferent. I just gave you the benefit of the doubt one too many times. You crossed a line, not with the wristband, or the reception, or the money, but with the assumption that I wouldn't care, that I wouldn't notice, that I didn't matter. I don't want to fight with you, but I also don't want to pretend this didn't happen. I hit send and waited. 3 hours later, she replied. Her message was long, paragraphs and paragraphs of excuses, half apologies, and circular logic. "We didn't think you'd mind. Jordan said we had to make tough cuts. You've always been so generous. I didn't mean to hurt you." Then came the kicker. "Honestly, I feel like you're blowing this out of proportion. If you just stayed and talked to me after, this could have been resolved privately. But now you've made this a big thing." That was the moment I knew she hadn't changed. Not really. So I wrote one final reply. "No, Zoe, I didn't make this a big thing. You did, when you let a stranger into the reception over your own brother. When you used my money for a car, then pretended I paid for a honeymoon upgrade I didn't even know about. You're just upset that someone finally called it out. I won't be part of this pattern anymore. I wish you a happy marriage. I really do. But don't expect me to keep playing the role you've written for me." I haven't heard from her since. What came next was revealing. A few cousins reached out privately. Some said they'd noticed I wasn't in the wedding photos and were wondering what happened. I told them the truth, and I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The story told itself. And slowly, word started to spread. Jordan's parents found out next. Apparently, they'd been under the impression they had paid for the DJ and some other parts of the wedding. When they heard about my contribution and how it had actually been spent, things got tense. I wasn't there for that fallout, but Uncle Ray told me later that Zoe and Jordan had a bit of a reckoning with the in-laws over financial transparency. As for the $5,000, I canceled the check. It hadn't been cashed yet. I called the bank, explained the situation, and voided it. Then I sent Zoe a final message. "I've canceled the check. Consider this my boundary, not a punishment. I won't be financing any more silence." A week later, I got a manila envelope in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Zoe's. Inside was a handwritten letter and a photocopy of a check made out to me for $5,000. The letter was only a few lines long. "You made your point. loud and clear. I don't agree with everything you said, but I get it now. I'm sorry. This is what you're owed. I didn't deposit the check. I didn't need the money anymore. I'd already gotten what I needed, not financially, but emotionally. Closure, clarity, and a clean break. I keep the check in my desk drawer, not as a grudge, but as a reminder that sometimes family isn't who you're born to. It's who sees you, includes you, respects you, and if they won't, you have every right to walk away, envelope in hand, dignity intact. And no, I don't think I'll be invited to the baby shower. But for once, I'm fine with that, because I've finally stopped showing up where I'm not welcome. And let me tell you, freedom feels better than forgiveness ever did.